These NBA playoffs, man, they've been something, haven't they? Listen, we talked about it, going into the NBA playoffs, and it does seem like that once again, as it does with every NBA season, that injuries and health are going to dictate the championship. We certainly have had a lot of level of surprises, especially I would say out west in these playoffs. Now, I'm not going to go through obviously every single game, every single moment, every series and talk about it because that would take way too long. Obviously, Boston destroying Atlanta in game one, and we all expect Boston to kind of win that series. The Lakers had a little bit of a scare at halftime in game one. It looked like Anthony Davis was hurt, but then the Lakers come back. They did their thing. Regardless if John Morant was hurt or not, which is unfortunate. That incredible play that Anthony Davis made, taking the charge. John Morant, though, goes down. He has a hand injury. I did pick the Lakers to win game one. I thought, if John Morant was going to play, that being tomorrow night in game two, Memphis would bounce back, tie the series at 1-1. But as you guys know, I did predict the Lakers to win that series. Clippers Suns was a very interesting game. I banged on Russell Westbrook for years and years and years, and he had another Russ-like game going 3 for 19 from the field. Why anybody thinks that guy is a Hall of Famer is beyond me, but he did make the defensive play in the moment in the game, and he also made key impacts on the defensive end of the court on Kevin Durant throughout the game. Listen, the Clippers, I thought, played incredible out of their mind. They played very focused. We know they have a great head coach in Tyronn Lue. Regardless, I do not think they're going to win the series. And this is my biggest takeaway. You talk about, obviously the Clippers stealing game one against Phoenix, the Lakers defeating Memphis, Miami defeating Milwaukee, which it does sound like Giannis is going to play in game two after that scary fall, but not all game ones are the same. Sometimes in game ones, you can see things and they're a little bit fluky. Like Max Struz, excuse me, and those guys for the Heat going off in game one. Don't think that's going to happen. If Miami does steal game two or game five, or even if they go up, 3-1 in the series, then we have a real series. But until that point, I think Milwaukee still has control in that series. Same thing for the Clippers. However, the problem is going to be if the Clippers do end up winning both of those games in Los Angeles, if the Suns come back and win game two tonight, if the Clippers do win both those games in LA, that series gets real 3-1. And they also have a robot like figure in Kawhi Leonard. The two teams that I think I might have been completely wrong about potentially going into these playoffs are actually both of the teams that met for four straight NBA finals between 2015 and 2018. Obviously, different rosters now for both, but one being the Cleveland Cavaliers, who no longer have LeBron James, and one being Golden State, and this might be the end of their dynasty. We all saw Draymond Green, kicking Sabonis last night in game two. And it looks like that Sacramento right now is just the better situational team, which for such a young team, and yes, they are led by Coach Mike Brown, who was the defensive coordinator and then Golden State for all those years. But for such a young team in Sacramento, against a veteran like team in Golden State, it's very shocking to me. Golden State, I know that they are the champs. I know they struggled on the road all this year. I know that there were signs. But as I said in my playoff predictions, and I said this a little bit, I alluded to it a little bit earlier in this podcast today, or if you're watching on YouTube, go back and check out the clip where I talked about the NBA needing to create more urgency in the postseason by limiting those rounds. That being, in my opinion, the first round should be a best of three with a number one seed gets a bye. You have no eight seed. It's a lot like the NFL and MLB playoff format. Semifinal round is best of five. Conference finals and NBA finals best of seven series. That creates more urgency in the NBA playoffs. And it makes the games matter more as opposed to a gimmick play in tournament. But when you look at the playoffs, again, outside of the Houston Rockets in 1995, where Hakeem Olajuwon was hurt for most of the regular season, came back in mid-March, and they were a way better team than what they were seeded as the number 6 seed in that 1960s Boston Celtics team led by Bill Russell. We have never seen an NBA team win the championship when they are not a top 3 seed. And I thought this year in the West, between Golden State and the LA Lakers, both had similar issues where they were both really struggling prior to the trade deadline. There was real concern on if either team was going to even make the postseason. And then they started getting on and playing well towards the end of the year. Golden State specifically at home, Lakers on the home and on the road front. And you kind of thought, okay, both these teams can make a run in the postseason. So far, it seems like the Lakers can. If the Lakers play the Kings in the next round, the Lakers have a legitimate chance to go to the Western Conference Finals, which I do think at this point they would play Phoenix or the Clippers. I think the winner of that Phoenix Clippers matchup, which to me is a little bit less in stone than what it was going into game 1 on Sunday, they will defeat Denver. I think Denver rolls over Minnesota. Like I said, I don't think Minnesota is very good. They kind of snuck in. There's a reason why the 8th seed, in my opinion, should not be involved in the postseason. But that's not the here nor there. But yeah, Golden State, they're not Golden State. They're not buttoned up. They turn the ball over. They're very careless with their possessions. There are signs that you can see, kick out to Andrew Wiggins in the corner, then making buckets, and then going on runs. But it's not as consistent, and every time they do so, Sacramento responds right back. Their defense is not at the championship level that it was for all those years they made the finals, regardless if they won or lost against, the Cavs, Toronto, and then Boston, obviously, last year. So more so than ever, I do think Golden State's in trouble. If they go down 3-1 against Sacramento, Sacramento was able to steal a game, but Sacramento had a pretty good road record this regular season. If the Kings, who I thought absolutely had no chance to beat Golden State, there's a real possibility they could go back to the Golden One Center up 3-1. That's completely shocking to me. Again, I'm not as shocked about the Lakers. A little bit shocked about the Clippers. We'll see. I think tonight will tell all. If Kevin Durant, has his type of game and the Suns bounce back, I think there will be no concern. But if Chris Paul continues to show age, if Devin Booker continues to not be that dog that people think he is, even though he is not, Devin Booker has never been willing to be the guy on the team. To me, Devin Booker is a number 3 on a championship team, not a number 2, and Kevin Durant is showing the reason why. And to me, Chris Paul has to be more assertive in the scoring department for Phoenix to get back up and win that game. So a little bit concerned about Phoenix, not surprised about the Lakers, not surprised about Denver. Golden State to me is the most surprise in the West. East, there was not a ton of surprises. Philly is taking care of Brooklyn. It feels like Boston is going to roll over Atlanta. Yes, Miami stole a game on Milwaukee, but that was probably mostly because a lot of their guys got the hot hand. Tyler Herro being out for the rest of the series is going to hurt them, to me, more than Giannis missing. And I think Reggie Miller even said this on TNT. Giannis missing this game, as opposed to Tyler Herro missing the rest of the series, is a bigger deal for Miami as opposed to Milwaukee. And we all expect Milwaukee to eventually win the series. The one surprise in the East, and this is what I was trying to allude to when I mentioned the 2 teams that surprised me in Golden State and the Cavs, is, my Cleveland Cavaliers, and you will hear this interview that I do with James Ellsworth. We recorded Sunday night. That was, of course, the day after game 1. You're going to hear that on Thursday. Of course, James, the co-host of the Guardians of the COE podcast, over at Cleveland Media. Not only do we talk about WrestleMania and WWE and the draft, and if there's too much wrestling, which again I will get to at the end of today's show, but we talked Cavs, and I said my main concern after game 1 was the Cavs have 2 giant 7-footers, obviously, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen. They got out rebounded, out physical, out tough by the New York Knicks, and Mitchell Robinson is lengthy, and Obi Toppin is lengthy, and Julius Randle can be lengthy, and Jalen Brunson's beating Isaac Okoro and Jetty Osman and Gareth LeVert and whoever else you want to throw at the Cavs at them. And my other concern was, outside of the fact that Donovan Mitchell was literally the only person for the Cavs that scored, Darius Garland did not show up much. Jarrett Allen had a decent game, but you're not going to count on Jarrett Allen to be really your second leading scorer. Evan Mobley played an okay game, but not great. Not only did the bench not show up in general, but the Cavs were not ready to play. And as you've heard on multiple accounts, whether when I was with Believe in Media doing the All Things Cavs podcast with Joey Schneider, if you heard it on this podcast, I have been very critical of one JB Bickerstaff and his coaching and his rotations. I do not think JB is the guy for the Cavs going forward. I thought the Cavs were tremendously outcoached by Tom Thibodeau in game one. And again, not all game ones are the same. You kind of feel like Milwaukee's going to bounce back. You do feel like at some point the Suns are going to bounce back. The Cavs and Golden State, to me, are the two teams in the first round that we expected to win that are in the most trouble. The Cavs, to me, more than Golden State at this point, because some people did predict Golden State to lose at Sacramento. With Golden State, it was either they're losing to Sacramento or they're winning the championship, essentially. Most people predicted the Cavs to win possibly a first-round series against the Knicks. They have the more talent. And when you look at Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley versus Jalen Brunson quickly, and then Julius Randle, the Cavs, in my opinion, have one more buffer. But the thing about the Knicks there is that they are so much talented and so much deeper. The Cavs bench is non-existent, and the Cavs small forward spot is non-existent. And when I did my Brandon's World, sort of Brandon's fundamentals last week, where I talked about, hey, in the NFL, right, I think that you need a lean offense. You need an offensive-minded coach. You need receivers. You need an offensive line. You need to have these modern sort of progressive schemes and reads in modern day football. In baseball, you need really good pitching, really good bullpen, a good mix of contact and power hitters. In basketball, my main thing you need is shooting from all areas and wings. And the Cavs really do not have shooting from all areas of the floor, and they don't have wings that can score and defend. Isaac Okoro can be hit or miss. Caris LeVert, as soon as he gets in the postseason, acts like a clown. He played absolutely terrible. And so for that reason, I do think now the Knicks have a real chance to pull off the series win against the Cavs, which is unfortunate for me as a Cleveland guy, because it is the Cavs, again, first postseason in my lifetime without LeBron James on its roster. However, we will see what happens come tonight in game two. Very interesting playoffs so far. I do think Elf is going to dictate it. It's been really fun. Again, you can see the competitiveness. You can see the urgency in these games, which is why we need to cut back on the regular season. And could you imagine if you cut the regular season down below 70 or so games, then you have this best out of 3 that I propose, the best out of 5. These guys playing every single night. I mean, how great is it to see Kawhi Leonard on a court dominating again? How great is it to see Kawhi and Kevin Durant sort of go one-on-one? Golden State and Sacramento back and forth. Then you have the defensive physicality of a Cavs-Knicks series. On top of that, Lakers-Grizzlies, where there's a John Moran, potentially if he plays, a LeBron and AD, and that factor of Hachimura and Austin Reeves developing. Like, there is a lot of balance in the NBA, and to me, it's going to make these playoffs very interesting. We all think we know who's going to win the title, and Milwaukee's out there in that conversation. Boston's in the conversation. Philadelphia, a little bit. We'll see if they can get past Boston, Joel Embiid and James Harden and Tyrese Maxey. I said that was going to be the key for them to get all 3 of them to score. They did that for the first 2 games against Brooklyn, even though Mikal Bridges is becoming a star right before your eyes, but Brooklyn's just not there yet. There's a lot of talent there, and we will see how it goes as the postseason progresses. Do you like that clip from the Brandon's World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. while you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brandon's World podcast right here on YouTube.